This is the Awkward Handshake, a podcast about networking, business, and what really happens in the room.
We're unpacking the good, the bad, and the awkward so you can build better connections and get paid.
Let's get into it. We are going to record a very special episode. This was not originally on our plans, but the world's kind of on fire right now.
Understatement of the new year. Yes. It hasn't been that long.
Can we say this? We could kind of say the century.
Yeah.
I think so. We're out of the 1900s. We were born in the 1900s. Gen Z's making fun of us now on social media for that. But we're out of the 1900s, so I think we get to say that is the understatement of the century, the official century. But we ended up postponing our premiere week because we saw what was happening in world events. We saw what's happening in Minneapolis, and it just didn't feel respectful to launch that week. Like, it would have been one thing if we were just dropping another episode later in the week, like we are about to start doing.
Yeah.
Starting with this episode, as a matter of fact. But when we looked at it, we were like, a 5 full episode launch week just doesn't feel right to be pumping out material where you're like, and I got another one and another one.
Yeah.
So we postponed. But during that week, we also happened to have one of our coffee parties. And it was interesting what happened.
It was set up differently this time. So we specifically invited community organizers. And due to it being January and everybody being sick,
Yeah, pretty much.
the numbers were smaller than normal.
Yeah.
And so instead of just letting it be the usual networking event that we facilitate, you kindly kind of open the floor halfway through to, does everybody just want to like sit in a circle and have a talk about what's happening?
Yeah, we had a nice, juicy enough number, not too few and definitely not too many, to do some peer masterminding, which is what we did. It was like kind of like half therapy.
Yeah.
Masterminding. But we threw the question out to the group, like, A, how are you doing right now, human to human? But also B, as people who organize community in a leadership role for other people, what do we need to be concerned about right now? What do we need to talk about? And it opened up a wider discussion. And then you and I thought, you know what if we do a special episode in the lineup after we're done with premiere week, because those episodes were already in the can. So we'll just launch like we do, but have a discussion on values matching, because it is a hot topic right now for people who organize communities like we do and the other people who were at the coffee party.
Yep.
But also on the like business leader consumer end, where you're hiring people to help you or you're, doing your marketing for visibility so that people can say, yes, I want to work with that person. I feel safe with them.
Yep.
I like what they do. It makes sense. And so the question really for this episode is like, how do you make your values clear and match your values to others' values? Because the big slogan that seems to have really taken root is silence is complicity. And that was the thing we masterminded about in our group, was how do you work around silence is complicity when you don't want to be complicit, but you might not have the words yet.
You might not have the words, or there were some people in the group who were like, I don't have the energy. I'm doing everything else, and social is such a small part of what I do. And even if I put it out there, you wouldn't see it because the algorithm, it's gone in a flash. And then you're going to be yelling at me that I didn't do anything, but I did, but then also, is it performative now? Like, is it too late to do it now? I think people start to worry about how you're seen. One is kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, almost. Like, are they going to think I'm only doing it because everyone else is doing it and I'm 5 days behind everybody? So have I missed the wagon?
Yeah. Well, what was interesting is we had such a great balanced group actually in the circle. One person, his company had been acquired in the past year. And so now there is a parent company involved. So yay, because they have more money and operating power, but also boo, because said parent company has very strict rules and restrictions on what can or cannot be said at this time. And so the question for that individual was like, well, how do I continue to express values, help people feel safe, and help them through trying times? Because like they are feeling all the same things too. And then they're showing up these coaching sessions and stuff. What do you do? And then there was another person who made a really great point about how social media discourse is really swaying a lot of things right now, but there are these little sound bites, and you make content for sound bites when everything that's going on is so stinking deep that you need more than a soundbite to like have a really good discussion. And so that was kind of what got us thinking, maybe, well, we can have a discussion on the microphone because we are also living in this world and experiencing this right along with everybody else.
It's affected everyone because if you watch the late night shows, I've seen all the subreddits are getting pulled up, and it's like the range of subreddits that have to put their value statements down. I don't want to even say the ones that I've seen because they're just crazy that my husband has found. And he's like, I heard about this one. I'm like, why do you know that that's a subreddit?
I love that that's what Jeff is going through the internet looking for.
I think his friend is sending him stuff, given the types of subreddits that are being
You know where those subreddits come from.
It's not him. But I think it's affecting everyone.
Yeah.
And so everyone wants to do the right thing, but there's a lot of fear.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us, and I'll speak for myself, like as somebody who is very translucently white,
You are the most naturally platinum blonde person I have ever met in my life.
I feel like we don't have the muscles to do this.
Yeah.
Like we've not been in training very long. And I think it's also easy to just like repeat what other people say, or to just kind of like, is sharing someone else's enough? Because like they are in a better position. So like, does that count? Like there are all these questions that come up. And also like, I'll be honest, I know a lot of people, you're just scared. Because you're like, if I get this wrong, in my attempt to be right, if I get something wrong, who's coming for me? Because it's now public knowledge, right? And like, what if the unsubscribes are the wrong unsubscribes?
Yeah, there's like a compounded fear. It's so funny because
I know you don't have these fears, but like, I'll be the side of the equation that's like, oh shit.
we represent both sides of the table. Yeah, I would say on my side of the table, not being entirely white, that we're tired because this has been normal for us.
Yes.
So
And you're trying to tag team me in, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm getting, I'm pumping the little irons. Like I'm trying.
I'm like, I won't make you run too fast, too quickly.
But again, we're going to dive into this in the whole season. We already had a premiere week that pretty much speaks to this already, that having a yes friend is really powerful, and that when you network well, you get into rooms, you diversify your experience, and it helps you build this muscle.
Yeah.
That honestly is not a nice to have anymore. It is a requirement to have. And I would dare say that nobody's muscles are perfect. I've seen people of color step in it too. There's some of them stepping in it right now, but everybody is really trying to make values more apparent. And I think we're going to see it show up in our networking rooms a lot, primarily out of a safety issue more than anything. And, maybe you and I prefer I know you and I prefer networking in more diverse rooms anyways, because we've had conversations about it.
Yep.
And so because of that, naturally, I think you and I may see more of that than homogenous rooms, because there are some very homogenous rooms out there. And then, of course, there's private spaces that we don't have access to.
Yep.
I mean, we have our own private space, but we try to balance it pretty effectively. I think we do a good job of it. Where you focus your spending, but also your earning power is really what drives the equation. Like, we're looking at this through the lens of business because #it's networking, but you want to follow the money. And so when you follow the money, that is figuring out who gets your dollars and who gives dollars to you, and figuring out, does the money feel dirty or not? I mean, the woo-woo in me, the sensible woo in me would say that money is energy. And so when you're accepting money from someone, you don't want to take dirty energy from someone. And I feel like people are really feeling it right now.
Yeah, I think so. It sounds like for you, then it's kind of like this would be a time for people to assess your potential clients, like who you're reaching out to.
Yeah.
But even your current clients, and be like, where are your values?
Yeah.
And is it time to let some go?
Is it time to let some go? Is it time for the natural course of things to wrap up? I'm always wary, unless it's like your dentist or something, and you have your teeth and you need your teeth cleaned, But when it comes to business activities, everyone evolves on both sides of the two-way street. So it's kind kind of inevitable at some point that you graduate out of one service provider into another. Not that they don't all ever grow together, because there are situations where we've seen that happen. But I think like the universe is strangely asking people to do this work right now and say, the Lego blocks really need to be rearranged.
Yeah.
So what do you choose to do with it? But it is scary because you need to get paid. You need to pay your bills because money, follow the money. Like business involves money, and business is people, and people are the ones who give you the money. So you're like, well, shit, I need to pay my bills. Like, I don't want to lose half my audience. But then at the same time, it's like, were they ever going to really support you long term in the future anyways? And to be silenced as a result because of being afraid to lose the money, like, what does that do to you? I mean, that will wreck your physical health.
Yes. Yeah. And I think all of it can sometimes take longer than you expect. Like to notice that somebody's values don't match yours.
Yes.
Some rooms you could walk into and it can be very, very apparent very quickly, or you have a conversation with somebody and there are the clues drop very quickly and you're like, oh, I need to go. Look, someone's waving at me. Goodbye. And I think others, you can be halfway through a project and suddenly be like, this isn't feeling right. And I'm not sure if you ever get faster and better, because some people are really like some things just don't come up. Something you don't notice, or some people are very good at not mentioning.
I feel like that, which used to be very standard, which was there are taboo topics. You don't talk about politics, religion, or sex. You just don't. And now it's changed. Like things have sped up, but people are like, no, just rip the lid off the box. Like, what is it? And like, I was in a room at the beginning of this year and there was a happy hour event and some of us had like just kind of naturally migrated into a corner. And it was sort of this like undercurrent. And they're like, so like, how do you feel about this right now? Where do you land? And it was this like, who are you? Who
it's
are
tentative,
you?
it's vulnerable.
And then it was all like, oh great, we're all on the same page. Okay, so we're going to dinner tonight, right? And I feel like that's happening more and more, except now it's just like really loud. It's like, no, I'm just gonna ask you. But yeah, I do think you're right. Like there are a lot of people, probably more people who are white than non, who are like experiencing this muscle for the first time. And that's a lot. That is a lot. I have a lot of compassion for that. But then you have your friends, like you and I are friends. You ask me questions. We have a safe space. Like we're going to talk about the yes friend experience in a future episode and the safety that comes with being able to talk with your yes friend about all these very emotional things.
Yes. I'm wondering almost if women or female presenting are better at this than men, because it's a safety thing. It's a question of, am I safe in this room? Am I safe with this person? When you have to ask these questions. And women just unfortunately always have to.
I do think that like when we're talking about this topic, you do have to critically look at what tools you do have in your toolbox right now, because that did come up in our circle up in that very special coffee party that we had. My example was that somebody was hitting me up in direct messages recently, asking me about local politics that I was involved in, and because it was very public. And what I ended up doing is I encouraged her to use the microphone that she has built. She has worked really hard to start this local podcast. And I wonder how much of our listeners are listening thinking, well, what tool do I have? And I think it's important to ask yourself, like, do you reach out to talk to someone to commiserate, or do you reach out to figure out, does this messaging land? If I said this, what would you think? Or what would you do? Like, those are very different discussions.
Yeah.
And the reason why I parked her outside the garden gate is because she came to commiserate instead of, hey, I think I feel really activated. What do you think would be helpful? I was thinking about doing XYZ. And it wasn't in that vein. It was sort of like, Mom, tell me what to do. And I was like, girl, I cannot give you the answer right now. Do not ask a person of color right now. Mom, what do I do now? No. Boo, you're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah. No, and that's such a hard, I do feel like that's the first thing that most of us would do.
Because you're like, somebody didn't give me the answer.
Yeah.
There must be like Cliff's Notes or cheat codes or something for this.
Yep.
Except that nobody has any codes and there is no Cliff Notes.
No, and I think we underestimate what we do have, because we have mailing lists. We have where does our company give its money?
Yeah.
Like there are a lot that suddenly have 1%, 5%, 10%, whatever to organizations, and they make that very loud. I watch Good Mythical Morning, and at the end of the episode, they'll spin a wheel, and one of the things on the wheel is they will donate like $1,500, and they'll tell you who it's going to, and like every episode that's on there, and they might
is
end up
so
doing
cool.
$1,500. Yeah. So I feel like a lot of us would say, I have this platform, I have this tool, but this is political and my business is not. I'm going to be like the voice of the audience here.
Use your powers for good, Megan.
And I think what we need to remember is that if we want our audience to be around, to be our clients, to be our customers, to be somebody that we can help and bring joy to, they kind of need to also be, one, your fan, which means you need to know that you have the same values. But two, they kind of still have to be around.
That's an excellent point. They do have to exist.
I love that this is the point that's come out.
Well, it's like, like how far do we want it to go? It's worse than shitification at some point. Like it's just all shit at that point. And it's kind of like we are many things, but it doesn't even have to be political. I think the state of the country is at such a point. It's not even political at this point. It is what should be very basic.
Morals.
We all
values.
agreed on this thing, right?
Like you shouldn't kill other people. Like
Yes.
basic.
And what I realized in sitting through my first and only 2 library board meetings with you was it's kind of like this had happened to me before in my life too, when I used to belong to a church, and they took a vote of, are we going to allow gay pastors? And they said it'll be up to the congregation. But if we do vote no, we will have to leave the ELCA, because that is the line that the ELCA drew in the sand that said, we are going in this direction. If you do not want to come with, you get kicked out. So they put the vote to the congregation. And this is a congregation that had 2 worship sides. Literally like 2 worship halls, the sanctuary side, which is the old school, like pipe organ. And my dad was Catholic, so he liked that side. And then the contemporary side, and my mom's like, thank God, there's this side. And they took a vote, and it came right down the middle. It was slightly to the no side. And the pastors said, do it again.
Good for the pastors.
Do it again, because we don't want to do this. We don't want to leave this organization. And so the word got out, and there was kind of a shame on you to the older generation that like, we're not doing this now, come along. And they rallied, and they were able to say yes and stay with. But it was at that point, and the same kind of thing happened in the board meeting. You are in this group, and you assume we all have the same values, because we don't talk about those values, because we just assume, like, we agree the sky is blue and grass is green, that we're all on the same page. But when things come up and you realize, oh shit, we didn't talk about this because I didn't think we had to talk about this, but we are so not on the same page. There's this big sense of like betrayal.
Yeah.
And this has happening right now too. I'd say a lot of people.
A lot of people. It's so interesting. I'm listening to you tell that story about the church, and I'm thinking about the last, essentially decade. Because I feel like this has been slowly building like onion skin layer by onion skin layer since 2016 when Trump first got elected, and was a huge surprise shock. I mean, our voters will do anything except elect a vagina into an office. Anything.
Black man.
And aliens could drop from the sky and they'll
Aliens
be
could
like,
go.
you know who would be great for office? The alien. And so I feel like it's just been stacking up layer by layer. And as it's been doing that, there have been certain demographics where the values get talked about. We've seen a rise over time since the online entrepreneurship community has grown for women-only spaces. You and I have a whole lot of opinions on women-only networking groups, which we will talk about in a future episode. We love them for specific reasons, and then also for not. And then the queer community has had out of safety queer only spaces, or there were markers for inclusivity, like utilizing pronouns in the community, or just simply saying like diversity statements and having them published. And honestly, most of them are pretty fucking generic.
Yes.
But this fact that you would publish one was a clear marker of those values. And we're hitting this like exponential pileup right now of values alignment, checks and balances. And I really feel like it's going to rock our business world, which we're going to see in our networking spaces, which might have either stronger statements, I think is what it will start with, like, we don't tolerate blah, 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 because that's also been happening in recent years. But I think it's going to become the norm now. And then maybe as far over as actually hard checking, like, do you believe X or Y? And that will sort you. Either it's sorting hat time, like you're going to the good place or the bad place. And we're all like, oh my God, am I in the bad place right now?
If the MLMs are there, yes.
Yes. But yeah, I think like that is where we're at this moment. And it's fascinating for us to be recording a podcast about our networking activities and to be living through times such as this and really seeing how people are handling it and not handling it and how those values end up getting shaken out in the end. I think I would not, you know what? I'm gonna call it. I would not be surprised that somebody at this very moment is trying to commodify this process and will come out with a course or a program on how to get, and it'll probably be some, white woman from Wisconsin who's like, you know what? I learned something and now I'm going to sell it. I could see that happening.
Because it did for a while. It went the other way, actually. After Black Lives Matter, there were a lot of Black entrepreneurs who put out courses of like, people sit down and just take this course and learn. So it actually went the other way. But I can absolutely see that we didn't learn enough from that. And here is some woman in Wisconsin.
Like the things that need to be learned in mixed spaces from people of color. Yeah. And I think until people of color know that their communities have really got their backs, you're not going to see as much prevalence of it. No. But I do think that we're in like an explosive time in terms of things blowing wide open, where it's like, actually, we do need to talk about these values and to help people who are honestly having like a serious come to Jesus moment in their lives. Because there were some people who were like, nope, I'm doubling down. Oh, God. I really think Trump's great. And they're like, maybe not. And I think that's where we see the fear show up the most, because there's definitely a division. And I'm amazed at how many people will cling to the thing that is harming the literal people who could pay them for their business. Like, follow the money. Yeah. We do still exist in capitalism, but like, follow the money then. And you want to just harm half the population? Like, way to cut into your profits. Do I have to explain it to you like that? Did I find a secret sauce?
Yeah. No, my brain went to, they're always trying to get, obviously, us women to not be in the workforce. And I'm like, you're going to cut the GDP in half. Like, do we really want to do that right now? It's like, I'm like, you could, but really... I'll just, maybe that's how we destroy capitalism, is they shut women out and we just create our own system. And there you go. Create our own economy.
World peace. Perfect. Well, let's talk about being authentic versus being performative, because that was one of the themes that we really noticed coming out of our coffee party, which inspired a lot of our talking points today. Yeah. But yeah, basically, like, we have an authenticity problem in business. That is not a new thing, not by a long shot. But I noticed as we were assembling notes for this episode that you and I have recorded, I don't know, at least 30% of our season at this point when we're recording this special episode to come out. And we do have a theme in our episodes about authenticity versus performance. And it comes up again and again. And it's not just us. We are now recording guests as well. And those themes come up again and again. And I find that really fascinating. And you had noticed that the emotional hook was really like around guilt and shame. And I wonder if you would like to lead us on this segment.
On the guilt and shame train.
Well, I mean, the Catholic in me recognizes the Catholic in you. So.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, what I noticed is we feel like we need to do something. So we'll put out some sort of message. We'll just follow along. But I do think that deep down, it's this reckoning and not wanting to know the answer of, am I being authentic or am I being performative? Because I think a lot of people run on autopilot for certain things that we do in our society. There's certain interactions that we have. There's certain things that we are taught in our families as to how we deal with things, how we respond to things. I mean, I think let's go sympathy cards, right? Sympathy cards are performative. I had to buy one today and I read them all and I'm like, if I were in this person's shoes, I would scream and burn all these things because none of this is helping me.
Yeah.
They're like, don't worry, the sun will come out like in a while. And I'm like,
Oh,
fuck
God.
that. No. I am deep. Like, I just lost someone. Like, no, I don't want your card. And I feel like certain actions in our society, we just are taught to do them. And so in that sense, they're performative. If someone's hurt, let me help you. But it's not coming from I actually want to learn or actually want to get to know you better.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's like people are stuck in social graces.
Yes.
As opposed to real human to human connection.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so it's like a little bit different. That it's not like mean performative, but it is still like you're not actually going to show up when I need you to. And I misread the signs. Like I thought you were interested in me. I thought you were interested in my story, but it was all just training to keep a conversation going or pretending to be interested and that sort of, I guess more pretending than performative.
It's the societal manners.
Yeah.
So you're going to love this. When people get really hung up on decorum, it is a form of silencing diversity.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
So you'll notice that when people of color are speaking up, which is happening right now, but now there are also a lot of white Americans or white people around the world who are going, oh shit, they started coming for me too. And you realize that it's actually about a power thing. And the rules of decorum and social niceties and manners, giving cards, not that those things are inherently bad things, but they get enforced in the social conduct rules to require you to stay in line.
Yes, because if you don't do it, everyone notices.
And so if you're in business and you're like, oh shit, I understand silence is complicity, but fuck, I don't know how to not be silent, whatever
So
that's
I'll just
going to
copy
be.
so-and-so's
So I'll copy
post.
someone else because that looks like it is socially acceptable. And meanwhile, you're still performing.
You're still performing and you're feeling so much guilt about it because you're like, I think I did the thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, but I don't know what to do.
I'm going to go out on a limb.
And then you're like, will this pass in a week and I won't have to think about this again? And then, no.
No,
It
no.
got worse.
And I have heard that refrain more from my white friends than from my people of color friends, because people of color are like, I've never had that option.
No.
I've never had that option to be like, oh, maybe next week I won't have to think about it anymore. It's like, no, you live with it every fucking day. And I am fortunate to be passing enough, and I inherited my father's surname, which is an English and not an Asian last name. So I really pass. I pass on paper and I pass in person an awful lot. And I'm still like, no, I don't get that pass. I don't get to be like, I just don't get to think about it next week. But I think it's a really valid and a brave thing to say, like, because you came to me and you were like, man, we're going to postpone our premiere week. You're like, damn it. And I was like, I know, girl, I have the same feeling. And at the same time, it was like, we are living it. Like, it changed overnight. Alex Purdy got shot and it changed. And, you know, the BIPOC community was rightly equally outraged and then additionally outraged, because it's like people of color have been getting shot like crazy, but a white woman and a white man got shot and suddenly the whole world exploded. And it's like, oh, okay, you know, if that's what happens, that's what happens. But we are all officially now living on the other side of a line.
Yes. And I'll be clear, it wasn't just like it's not fair that we had to postpone it. It was, my concern was, given how things were.
Yes.
Well, what happens when next week there's
More.
And
There's
like,
more.
How,
There's
how
gonna be
more?
more.
How
How
long?
much more?
And that's I was like, Mary, won't this go be indefinite? Like, and you were like, nope, just 1 week, and then we'll see. But
Well, and that was an act of group authenticity on our part. And I remember explaining to you in our text message, I was like, girl, we need to talk about a premiere week. And he said, by having empathy and compassion for where our listeners are at right now, and not waiting, it allows us to move forward with a little more grace. And I think that is what we kind of heard in the subtext of our coffee party discussion, which was, well, shit, a whole week has gone by and I understand silence is complicity, but now I feel like I'm behind the curve. What do I do? I don't know. And, and it shows up in your networking activities and it shows up in your marketing that you have to do. And then I had told you the longer we would wait or anybody waits, the more effort you need to put in order to rectify your messaging
to come across as authentic.
Yeah. You can still be entirely authentic. We know many of these people. They are genuine people, but it is harder on a public marketing messaging standpoint to unbury yourself from having sat on messaging for a smidge too long.
And I think one of the things we also helped some of the people who came realize too is like, it doesn't have to be on social.
Exactly.
And then social it's there, it's gone. It's there, it's gone. Like whatever post you have, they're gone. But how do you show up for the people actually around you?
Yeah. And social's so loud.
It's so loud.
And so transient.
Yeah.
And not the most genuine, authentic place where, you can partake in discourse unless you're a celebrity and you have the large audience. But for the rest of us mere mortals, that's not our reality. So having rooms like what we had, honestly, more impactful. And, and it gets down to a networking point, which is good people know other good people. How many posts did you and I see from some of those folks or their newsletters that came out? And they were all like, thank God we had this talk. I really needed it. Yeah. And then they went forward into their communities and did great things. A couple of them referenced, like, I was at this coffee party and this is what happened. And that is an example of not being silent.
Yeah. I think people want homework. It is, who do you know that you could just
care for?
Get on a group call even and just be like, can we just talk about the week or how we want to move forward?
Yeah.
To support the people that need our support.
Well, I think that's a wonderful segue into our next segment, which was small things that hosts can do to make values clear. So we're hosts. Other people listening might also be hosting community. I mean, I would say, generally speaking, if you have a client list, you have a community.
Yep.
So our goal is to help whoever's listening to take some action and to help folks realize that you can overcome any sense of helplessness right now, because there are a lot of people who are feeling that way.
Yeah.
I feel like things are happening to them instead of being actively able to participate in it.
Yep.
You have some very great, simple ground rules that you wrote on our notes. And I was like, how pragmatic of Megan.
I know. Because even if you had something that is, maybe it's a course, right? And you've got people coming online into that space, it is just kind of setting those customer experiences or those, visitor experiences that just, how can you state who's welcome at the top of things? Let's go through what's tolerated and what's not. That's becoming more common in the spaces that I've seen, where there's kind of an agreement that you sign.
Code of conduct.
Yeah. We didn't used to do that.
No.
We thought we were all adults in the room, but no, we're not. We're kids again. What came up again and again in the group that we had was like people were saying, we only invite 10 out of 10 people.
I loved that phrase that came out, 10 out of 10. Yeah.
And we had some queer people who came and they were like, I knew it was going to be okay because we know.
It's a 10 out of 10 room.
Yep. Because we know Megan and Mary would not put us in a place of danger. The one thing that we cannot control in the space that we are in is that, unfortunately, we do not have gender-neutral bathrooms.
No.
Because it's a very, very old school.
Very old school.
Catholic school.
It's Catholic. There's maybe the Catholics want to be
guilt
part
and the
of it.
shade. But like if you are hosting even, like we're going to have a networking event later, but if you're having even like friends over, or these bigger groups, like, is there any way to just kind of like when you get on a plane and you point out here are the exits, here's what's expected, these are what the buttons do, just give people kind of the lay of the land, because people like that structure of knowing nobody should be an asshole in the room.
Yeah.
This is where, even I was in a group once and they had, if you feel any harassment, this is the system that's in place.
Right.
Here's who you contact, like afterward, here's who you contact. And there was just a clear protocol. And there was a link that was always put into the chat first thing.
Yeah.
Before we even said like hellos. It was like, this needs to be stated. Now we can go.
Kind of reminds me of in the university system when you go to school and there's an ombudsman's office. And I wonder if our businesses need to have a campus ombudsman. And so you have to create systems around that and procedures and policies. And it just gives people a clear doorway to walk through that has followable steps that help you feel like you haven't lost your agency or your power in a situation that might have turned shitty, or even to advocate on the behalf of someone else.
You could also put it in your contracts to protect yourself.
Yeah, you
as a
could.
reason to terminate. Like if something comes up, you
Like this is the procedure.
maintain that right. Yeah. And this is the procedure.
Oh, that's good. Oh, I like that. That makes me want to do that now.
Right? Because
Yeah.
again, like we said, it can take a long time. We don't all have the t-shirts that say like in this house, right? Like the signs, like we don't all walk around with one of those, and it can take a long time. And different people have different lines in the sand, right? Beyond the basic moral values that we should be all agreeing on. But there are certain people have different standards, different lines in the sand, and you don't always know with the client until quite late. And so, I'm a commitment foe. So like I have one of those contracts.
I love that though. What a great idea. And it is honestly a small thing. I mean, if you're a good person and good people come to you, then the likelihood
never
of
occurred to you. Yeah.
the likelihood of you needing it is so small. I think it's another great example of something that happens way the fuck off social media, because so much of this silence is complicity thing is really just like a social media
It's a social media
thing.
performative.
And so instead of being performative, it's like being able to communicate clearly to your actual paying customers that you are taking care of them and that you've created an ombudsman's office and of sorts is, I would argue, not even a small thing, but like such a huge thing to do and a great way to model for other people. Because when you see people do cool things, you're like, oh, I could totally do that in my business, And, like, what a great thing to do.
I'd also say too, if you're feeling like, again, it's between being performative, and something else, I would rather I've seen people go to the bar and they just write letters to their representatives. So Congress people, just do that instead.
One of the things that came up with one of the members in our circle that day was that you don't have to like go live and become some political analyst or something. But like, let's say you do the thing where you go and hang out with friends at a happy hour and you write letters to your Congress people. It's like you're a business person. Take a little B-roll and just put up something with the trending music of the day and a nice caption about like, this is where I stand, and that's it.
Just normalize it.
Normalize that you take action. I think what matters more for me when I look at what people are doing right now is, do your actions match the very loud voice that you have? Because when we talk like silence is complicity, yes, and also just because you're loud doesn't mean that you're really moving the needle on things.
No.
So that brings us into our final segment, small
Which I
ways.
labeled.
Which you labeled small ways to call people out. And I had to hesitate because I was like, shit, I don't do anything small. But I do think that you're right that this is really leadership 101 in the new age of apocalypse, is not being afraid to be like, ho, ho, ho here. You have officially crossed the line in the sand. There are flags clearly painted, like they are planted here, and you have walked right over them. Not okay, buddy, and that's a leadership skill.
It is. And I feel like I'm going to be you in this episode and say, for some people, that's a therapy issue.
Yeah.
Because like things like this are difficult for me just from my upbringing.
Yeah.
And so that's why I called it small ways. And so for me, it was finding ways to be like, not to, it's kind of like Aikido. You let the force go. You don't try to fight it. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight a weird statement
Yeah.
with like an angry statement with anger. So instead just be like, that's a very weird thing to say out loud. And it just kind of, it's a little trip
Yes.
for them to be like, oh, nobody wants to be the weird one in a social group. And so if you can be like, you're not part of the group now, we're not doing that. What's wrong with you? Instead of coming at it with like anger or I need to educate you, instead just be like, it's kind of like, who farted in the room? You know, what did you do that for? Like,
I would be the one being like, you smell like a fart. Your values smell like a fart.
I know, you would be. And I would be like, just an odor. But you had one too from your coaching days.
Oh, yes. That came up in our group, didn't it? During COVID, people had all kinds of feelings. And I was coaching in an environment in a community that was massive at the time. And there was one time there, I think I used it literally one time. Most of the time it was just sort of this unspoken attitude. But it's like, you seem to be feeling some really, really big feelings right now. And you just take it all the way back to preschool and kindergarten. You're like, well, you just seem like you're feeling some really big feelings right now. I think you need to leave the Zoom room and go collect yourself and come back when you're able to use your words again. And, it's very effective. There were many emails that went out and said, I can tell you are feeling lots of big feelings. And I did write that. I said, so here's what I'm going to recommend.
Yeah.
Go think about XYZ. And after you have an answer for that, you can come back and you can book an appointment for a coaching call.
Yeah. So I think those sorts of things, like that's an action with the leadership too. Like for if this is your room, that you can be like, nope, go let the door hit you on the way out.
Well, I mean, that really should be the place you start from is follow the money, protect your bottom line of business.
Yeah.
And figure out like what is the thing that gives you a moment to breathe and pause and figure out how do I want to handle the situation? Because if somebody is really triggering a lot of things or maybe just flat out behaving poorly, which does happen, I don't think it happens, well, at least not in our world. I don't feel like that happens very often, but I have heard of it happening for other people. And so things like a catchphrase like your statement, which was so good, like, well, that's an odd thing to say.
I'm going to go over there now.
In a networking room, I would totally be like, and I'm out. Okay, bye. I'm not going to educate you in that moment. Like,
I don't need to.
No, and I'm not going to give you the energy. I might tell 20 other people on the other side of the room what she said.
And then we'll all look at them.
But yeah, you and I could not be more opposite on this.
I know.
I'm pretty loud. My marketing's loud. My life actions are loud. I have been in the paper for publicly resigning from the library board in protest and calling people out and on the public record. So I personally am not great at small call outs. But I have been thinking about doing a thing in the course of putting the notes together for this episode. It got me thinking. And I really want to do something, and it's a way of calling people out to help me sort my bottom line. And you know how people will offer like scholarship pricing for people?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how about if I flip that? Like the pricing is just the pricing. But at the intake part, I am going to ask you about values affiliation because I help amplify voices, quite literally. And I don't want to amplify a voice that's going to essentially work towards harming other people. Like this is a moral line. It's not the sand that's concrete. It has been cured, And I have had people in the past who were like, oh, I used to, feel this way or that way. And like basically atoning for my sins, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, I really want to work with you. Like I feel like it would be good for me to do that. I'm like, okay, well, your price is double because you need to pay. That's a reparation. Your double is the cost you pay for having made decisions previously that have harmed the people that I support in the studio. You want to come in here and do the work? Well, it's going to cost you double.
That'll be so interesting.
So I'm curious to see what happens because I do think that there are people in the not too distant future who are in this very moment waking up and they're kind of having this like, oh shit moment. Eventually everybody needs help. And I think we're going to be in a shitstorm for a little while. But if you are hell bent on me helping you and you're not going to be using your voice or your image to harm other people, so it's not some MAGA podcast.
Yeah.
Because that would be a flat out no. But if you were reformed MAGA and you were like, I think I need to do better, I'd be like, great, you can work with me, but your price is double because your past actions have harmed every single other regular client who comes through here.
Yeah.
And they now have costs that are 10 times what your cost is because they have to make up for all the shit you put into place. And I think that's my way of calling people out.
That's so good. Well, back in the day, goodness, that would have been the second Trump election. The 2020 round. It came out that Uline was funding his campaign. So this is if you were in the product-based industry.
Which you were heavily at the time.
Yeah. And Uline is everything.
Yeah, they're all of your shipping supplies.
All of your everything. Like packaging, everything. And so my husband and I had a big chat and we were like, okay, we're jumping ship. And we had to pay, like, to your point, at least double to go with, there was like Eco Enclose, which is the other, like, shout out to Eco Enclose, which was like more environmentally safe as well. Like all their stuff was compostable or recyclable. But that then was like the banner. That was our and many other people in that industry, the crafting industry, like their way of saying, here are my values. I'm not with Uline anymore. And it was this really weird, like,
Oh, that was what happened with,
it was a really weird flag to fly, you know?
was that Sticker Giant?
Yeah.
When their CEO sent the most unhinged emails out and everyone was like, bye.
Yeah. So it can be small, but like
Yeah.
look at who, obviously some of the social we can't get off, but like even looking at if you have other suppliers, like do a little bit of research. And then if that is something that not just you, I don't want anybody to just like shoot themselves in the foot, right? And like jump ship from something that there is no alternative of. And
No.
you can,
I mean, it calls into focus how much our systems of functioning are dominated by certain players.
Yes.
And we don't think about those values.
Exactly.
But I think we will be moving forward, which is going to be interesting. But yeah, I think like in the case of Uline, if that were to happen today, I think like one of the great small things, small ways is to go through that discovery process where you're like, oh shit, what are my other options? And then you find other options. And instead of gatekeeping that information, sharing it with everyone else. So you're not like, I'm going to have a political podcast today, but you're like, okay, so I discovered this thing, not okay with my values. So we decided to go research a whole bunch of things and you share it
and
publicly.
that was what the crafters did. They went crazy sharing all of it. Like they were screaming it from the rooftops on Instagram.
I think that's amazing. It helps the industry, but it also clearly states your values. That is the exact opposite of silence is complicity and fully functional on the things that you need to do. Yeah, that's such a great example. Megan, we've got hot takes to clear us out for the episode. I'm sure that you and I could probably talk about this for a very long time because there's so much happening right now around this.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's like coming from my position, it's kind of that taking stock. It is like, where's my mental health? Like, what can I do?
Yes.
And go like, what is the stance that I can take? Where's my comfort level? Go a little bit beyond my comfort level. But like, I'm of no use to anybody also if I just completely, like, we've seen some people go like full steam in one direction, like hyper focus, build things. Yeah. And then you're like, great, but nobody like,
What are you doing?
what are you doing? And nobody asked for it. Just so you can feel good about yourself.
That's the equivalent of creating an online course that nobody asked for. And then you're like, how come it's not selling?
It's like, take a breath. But yeah, I think it's going to look different for everyone. And I think this is me being Mary, where I'm like, it's your therapy time.
Yeah.
Like, just sit and like, what does it look like to you to not be silent?
Yes. And I think I will just tell you, as your weirdo friend on the other side of the table here, you have been lifting your muscles you're lifting your weights at the gym and building your muscles.
2-pound weights.
And I watch you do it and I'm just like, get it, Megan, get it, yes, you know?
Whereas you're benching like 150 and I'm like, I got my little soup cans and like...
Okay, everybody starts somewhere. There's no shame in soup cans. But yeah, I think like you and I are an example of, in this case, for networking, yes, friends. And by association, people see us go out and do things. And because of the way, like I am more vocal than you. I have been doing things in the local community at a visibility level that are very different from the life you lead. And you get to benefit from that association, you know? And I think like this is where we're going to see people really highlight, I'm a member of this, or I'm a member of that, or these are the things I do. And for our business owners who are networking alongside us and listening to this podcast, I feel like that is something you can do very easily. And interestingly, get gets you out networking because you need to actually see these people, but help highlight them. Use your powers for good. Like take selfies and, tag each other. Be like, it was so great to see you. And people start to notice like, oh, these people all hang out together. That must be a safe space. I know that person or that person.
Yep.
Maybe I should start going to those monthly things too, and it's a way for people to find safe, effective spaces more readily. I personally am like such a big fan of highlighting people that I work with. Like I just did it this week. I had a firearms lesson with Matt and I was like, get in here, we're doing a selfie. And he was like, okay. And so I made him take a selfie. I was like, I'm going to highlight you because he is also a half Asian kiddo like me and has been an amazing instructor as I've gotten back into my firearms practice. And he works with marginalized communities to help them master their Second Amendment rights. And it's so weird that we have inherited the Second Amendment, but okay, the left, And that was like all we talked about at the range. And just a small, simple act like that to like normalize something and make it less scary and be like, I'm not scared. Like I'm scared about plenty of things, but I'm going to invest my dollars. I paid him for that lesson. I'm going to invest my time. I went to the lesson and I'm going to say thank you and highlight him by making sure that other people who keep asking me about this know the trusted resource that I go to and not gatekeep that information. Matt, for me, is the equivalent of Uline. For you, mine involves explosives and yours involves packing tape. But I feel like those are the things that really matter.
And you didn't write a whole diatribe, a thesis.
No.
You just had his picture.
Yeah, just had his picture and I was like...
And a link.
And a link so that people can get to know him.
Yeah.
And because people keep asking. But I do feel like that is something that helps a lot. I can tell you that by doing those simple actions, my DMs blow up every single time I post a range day with Matt.
Yeah.
Every single time. I have so many questions that come in and I'm like, you should go take a class. You should go take a class. And this is how the ecosystem forms. And it's, another way of not being silent. I didn't go out there and get all weirdo to a activist. No, like I do exercise my Second Amendment rights, but also like, I know it's not for everybody but I'm also not going to hide it. Now that might not be the same for other people, but I do feel like it's effective.
Yeah. And I think it's a good little soup can step to.
It is a soup can step. That's my soup cans. They were little tomato soup cans. The little ones. The concentrate.
The little one.
The concentrate. Travel sized.
There you go.
Yeah, this has been such an interesting thing to insert into our season, but I think it was necessary, and I thank you for being my friend to be willing to record it.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like you feel like you don't or shouldn't have to, and yet you learn a lot when you can talk about these things.
Just for the record, I also feel like we shouldn't have to. Like, where are we at that we have to do this? And yet here we are. But yeah, it's important, and hopefully my hope is that we've modeled something on this episode for someone else.
Yeah, I think showing who you are and being curious. That's it for today's episode of The Awkward Handshake.
We record at Sasquatch Media Grounds in Vancouver, Washington.
I'm Megan, co-founder of Fat Cap Design and creator of PDX Spellbound.
And I'm Mary, founder of Sasquatch Media Grounds and Sensible Woo.
You'll find links to everything we mentioned, guests, resources, and ways to connect with us in the show notes on your favorite podcast platform.
That's also where you'll get updates on where we're headed next and when we're inviting listeners like you to join us for guided networking in person and online.
Don't be passive.
Click the links, pick better rooms. We'll see you there.